A quality fragrance is the perfect finishing touch to a great skincare routine and a great grooming routine, but a lot of guys don't do it correctly. Let me show you how. Hi guys, welcome to Men's Grooming Advice. If you're new here, I'm Bear Clark. Now, a quality fragrance is something to enjoy. It's something to let others enjoy. Whether it's a signature fragrance that you've chosen, which you tend to wear an awful lot of the time and people get to know you for, or whether it's a special occasion or a particular, maybe a date night fragrance, etc. you wear, or your office fragrance, etc. A quality fragrance can go a great way to giving you a perfect first impression, and not only a first impression but also a lasting impression. Because if you imagine, say, you getting up close and personal with somebody, if they go in and give you a hug, if you manage to get a decent snog at a nightclub, etc., then the person is, chances are they're not going to remember whether your shirt was from Hugo Boss or from Primark, but what they will remember is how you smell. Now obviously you need to choose a fragrance that suits your scent preferences, that suits your skin, that suits your wallet, because some of them can be quite expensive, and also suits the environment in which you're going to wear them. Now that's something that we can discuss in a different video, but today what I want to do is tell you exactly how and where you should be applying your fragrances to make the most out of them. Applying to the skin. Now you should apply your fragrance to clean, dry skin. Now there is some truth in the fact that a fragrance will last slightly longer if it's sprayed onto moisturised skin, but to be honest guys, the difference is so minuscule, it's really not worth getting hung up about it. So for today guys, I'm going to be using the Vera Wang for Men, which I have previously reviewed. This is a gorgeous, really sensual without being over the top fragrance that is great for a date night. It's got a medium projection and a fairly low silage, so it's not too overbearing, so you can wear a little bit more depending on the situation. So your basic application is 3 sprays. So you'll have a spray behind this ear, and then to the back of your neck or the nape of your neck. The reason being for that is that your neck is a naturally warm area, so that warmth is going to help project your fragrance. Behind the ears means that not only as you walk past people they catch a scent of you, but if somebody leans in close to speak to you or to give you a hug, then they get the benefit of your scent. And having some on the back of your neck gives some of that silage, some of that projection as you walk past. Now some channels I've seen suggestions of applying it to your neck or your throat. I don't recommend doing that. A couple of reasons for that. Firstly is that if you're wearing a high collar, or if you're wearing a collared shirt or a jacket or coat, for a start, you're going to obscure the scent, the majority of it. The other thing I've noticed is that if I'm freshly shaven and I apply my fragrance to my throat area, I can get a bit of a red rash come up from the alcohol onto the freshly shaved skin. So for me it's a no-no. I never apply fragrance to my neck or my throat. So these 3 application points are the basics. That's all you need for a basic fragrance use when you're in an enclosed environment. So that could be you're going to be on public transport, you're sitting in a car, maybe you're in a classroom, or you're in a fairly small office. But if you want to go a little bit further, then I suggest adding another 2 sprays for a maximum of 5. So with these extra 2 sprays, you've got a choice of where they can go. Now the first and most obvious that I see an awful lot of people go for is the wrists. I believe that probably a lot of this comes down to the fact that if you watch any classic film, TV show, if you watch adverts for women applying perfume, it's the cliched that they tend to put it behind the ears and then pop it on there. The reason they put it on their wrist is it's a pulse point, so again you've got that heat that helps flash off the fragrance and project it slightly. Now I don't use the wrist, and I'll tell you for why. There's a number of reasons. Firstly, if I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt or a jacket, it's pointless. Again, like the collars, I've covered up that spray area, so what's the point? Again, one of my areas will be covered by the watch. The other thing is, think how many times your wrists rub against things. Okay, now this may be that you're sat at a desk. It may be that you've got your hands resting on a keyboard as you type. Could be that when you're driving, you've got an arm resting on your central console or on the side of your door. Your wrists are constantly just rubbing against different surfaces, and it's going to rub away that fragrance. Speaking of fragrances on the wrist, you should not, and I repeat, not spray and then rub them in. This is a common misconception. People think that, you know, a little bit of the heat helps to raise the scent. It doesn't. What happens is that extra friction, that heat that you're creating with the friction, that releases enzymes which breaks down some of the scent, and also it mixes it with your natural oils. The effect that has is it tends to basically just virtually destroys the top note, which is the first part of your fragrance that you smell, and basically you've just wasted your time. It can change the scent slightly because of the way you've mixed it with your oils and the enzymes, but most important of all is that you'll lose your top note. So what will happen is you'll put it on, you rub your wrist together like that, you'll do your other bits and pieces, grab your car keys or whatever, you go, doesn't smell very much, I better put some more on, and you put some more on, and then you do the same thing again. It's a waste of time, it doesn't work. So if you are going to apply it to your wrists, which is to say I don't personally recommend, then spray, leave it alone. No rubbing, no tapping, just leave them be. So as an alternative, if you're wearing a t-shirt or a short sleeve shirt, my suggestion would be those other two application points could be in a crock of your elbow. Again, that's a pulse point, it's a heat flash area, it's something that will naturally produce a small amount of scent around you. It's going to be quite subtle, but that's where you can put your second two sprays. Now there's also the potential of putting the fragrance on your clothes. It's quite common, I think, for other channels to tell you about spraying it onto the collar of your shirt. That works really well because fragrance on your clothes tends to stay for quite a long time, and it can literally stay for days depending on the type of scent you're wearing. What I would say is, if you're going to do that, if you're going to apply it to a collar on maybe a shirt if you work in an office or you wear a suit for your job, apply it to your collar before you put your tie and jacket on. The reason I say that is, even though you might have a signature scent at the moment, even though you might have your favourite scent that you tend to wear, your shirt at the end of the day is going into the washing, it's going to wash off that scent. Now if you go in a couple of weeks time or a week's time or a few days time and you decide you want to try a different fragrance, you spray that on your collar, but your tie and your jacket has still got impregnated the previous fragrance, and there could be a clash. So put your fragrance onto your collar before you put your tie on, before you put your jacket on, to make the most of it and to avoid this clash. So there is another way to apply fragrance to your clothing, which is more suited to when you want to project more. So this could be in a club or at a wedding or an outside event or a festival. Now admittedly that's not going to be the case at the moment when I'm recording this, because we're currently in the middle of a pandemic, but in the hopes that eventually we get our way through that and get back to some semblance of normal, the way I would do it is I actually put a spray on each shoulder. Now what that does is that gives you a bit of a sideways, forward and back projection. It's particularly useful for guys, being that we tend to have particularly wider shoulders. It just creates a slightly more rounded projection than you would get from just your ears, the back of your neck and your elbows if you're using them. So if you go into a club, I would say the standard 3, which I always use, 1, 2 and 3, and then 4 and 5 onto your shoulders. And there is one more place you can apply your fragrance, of course, without being rude, and that is your hair. Now you can spray fragrance directly onto your hair. Do it from a distance so it's a fine mist, don't overdo it, but you can spray it on your hair. The molecules of the fragrance attaches to the shafts of your hair and will last for hours. In fact, you could even find, if you've got a reasonable projection or silage of a fragrance, and if you do just a light spray over your hair, let it settle, don't do it after you've styled your hair. Don't brush it through your hair. Just literally, just as almost as if you're just doing a little light spray of a hairspray. Just mist it over your hair, leave it, let it settle. That can last you easily all day. And again, that you've got the heat from your head, because you naturally produce heat that comes up through your head. That's going to project. It's going to give that posterior projection, that sort of trail as you walk past somebody as well. That's a great thing to do, but what I would do is just go easy on it. Less is more. And I would also just do this occasionally, maybe again when you want to project a bit more, when you want to have a stronger statement, when you're at a club or out and about. I certainly wouldn't do it every single day, because even though it's a very, very small amount of the fragrance, it's not ideal to be spraying alcohol on your hair every single day. And that's you smelling amazing. So I hope you found the video useful. If you did, and you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe. Or maybe you've seen a few of my videos but you haven't yet subscribed. If so, I hope today is the day that I earn your subscription. And if you want to support the work I do, please consider clicking that subscription button and clicking on that notification bell. I've been Bear Clark, you've been smelling amazing, and I'll see you again real soon.